Hey guys, Dave Freeman and Mike George with Carolina Classic Dragons. We are here to shoot our second episode in the series for Pagoda Vision. Tonight we're going to discuss housing, and we're going to go over a lot of the aspects of housing and the husbandry that goes along with it. Of course, we're going to show you some options. We're going to show you what we do here at the shop. We're going to present what we do, and then you guys can roll with whatever you think is best for your dragons. So we're going to start, Mike's going to start talking about, what are you going to talk about, substrate?
We're going to start with substrate. First off, I just want to explain what we have up here. This is actually, we're going to start talking about juvenile bearded dragon setups. So this is your 20-gallon standard 20 long. You can get this setup at PetSmart or online, or if you search Craigslist, you can get them normally pretty cheap. So 20-gallon, we're going to start with substrate. We have a couple different options here that we like to use. Pretty much a real standard one you'll be able to have in the house is going to be paper towels, and also you're probably going to have newspaper around the house, which they're both very easy to come by. Pretty much you'll just put them in just like this, cover the whole cage floor, put it in, and once they poop, pretty much they poop, all it is this, and you throw it away and you're done. Same thing goes with the newspaper. You'd put it down to fit. Normally on your standard papers, one folded up right in half normally fits a 20-gallon long perfectly. You put two down, good to go. Same concept. It poops, you take one out, crumble it up, and again, throw it right away. Besides your standard household products you'll find very easily, you can go to your local Home Depot and Lowe's and find things like linoleum tile or vinyl tiling, or you can get ceramic tile or slate. Right here is actually a type of vinyl tiling. These normally cost you about 88 cents, and they are easily cut with, any type of power tools or a X-Acto blade or box cutter. And pretty much you'll just be putting them down. This one needs a little bit more to cut to fit, and you'll pretty much tile it down. If you're going with your vinyl tiling, the positive thing about your vinyl tiling is actually it's 100% non-porous. So everything that's actually going to be all your fecal matter and things like that is just pretty much going to sit and not actually build into this vinyl tiling. So you can actually, when you put this in, is caulk it shut with anything. We would recommend silicone. Just make sure it's dry 100% before you put your dragon in it. But pretty much once it's down in there, you're really never going to have to remove it, and quick simple cleans will get it going. Now if you are going to use something like a ceramic or a slate tile, it is slightly porous, so when your dragon does defecate on this product, it is at some point in time, no matter how much you scrub or clean it, when it's in there, bacteria will slightly grow in these products, and they will be needing to bleach more often than your standard vinyl tiles. So either one is going to be, gives a little bit more decoration to your standard bottom. If you want something a little bit nicer, than said paper towels or newspaper. We're actually going to move on to what you can put into the cage. This dragon's being a little bit too hyperactive. Put her up here. What you can actually put into the cage. So we're just going to go through a couple things you can add to the cage. So first off, your main things what most people think about with your dragons would be something for them to climb on. So we have here, some climbing branches, and you can put this inside the cage. It'll fit just like so. And then we'll use this to actually bask on, to exercise. We'll get the metabolism going, and pretty much keep your dragon nice and lean, just like you want to be. Dragons will actually utilize a cave either on, you can put this either on your hot side or your cold side. It's really going to be up to the you guys as the owner. So we have here Paver Stones. You can actually find these at your local home improvement store. They only about $1. These are actually a little bit too big for this 20-gallon cage. They do actually make smaller sizes of these that you can actually build your own cave setup for relatively cheap, around $3 to $4. I can build them right here for you what it would actually look like. You can either put it like this, or you can put it like this. It just allows the dragon to get into something pretty tight, so get all nice and snuggly when they go to bed. And it makes them feel really secure as well. Being as young as they are, they still feel like they're a prey item, so it really helps them feel more secure into their actual cage. Some other things you can use in your cage is actually, there's hammocks out there. You can self-make them, or actually Zoom Ed makes a couple found at your local PetSmart or Petco. And they actually have suction cups you can use to fit on either side, making a triangle little hammock area to actually get them on off the floor And they're just like, they can use that. You can use it as basking or just for them somewhere to climb on. And again, to stress the whole point, a lot of people talk about, you know, you need a very simplistic setup. And dragons, you know, won't climb, won't, you know, bask on higher areas and stuff like that. That's actually a really big myth. We actually have on our larger cages, we have a couple dragons set up with a lot of decor products in there. You know, a lot of, you know, basking areas, a lot of branches, hammocks and stuff like that. And we're actually surprised that these dragons were actually, you know, going up there and climbing.
All right, guys, next we're gonna talk about lighting. You know, you got a lot of options. What we're trying to do today is really give you some options. We wanna try to save you some money. So one of the things that you can do for your juvenile setup, run out to your Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, wherever you wanna go, buy a cheap clamp lamp. You can pick these things up for about $7. Get this with an incandescent bulb, you know, just a standard incandescent bulb. You're probably going to be somewhere around a 100-watt bulb, maybe a little less. If you want to use, if you want to be more efficient and not have such a high electrical bill, you can go with a lower wattage and just raise the basking sight closer to the bulb. I really like this setup. This setup is what I've been using for years. I find it's the most efficient. I'm a big fan, and a lot of you guys that follow us on Facebook know that we're big fans of the Reptisun 10.0 UVB bulb. So what I like to do is get you a standard fixture, Reptisun 10.0, and then you put it on one side of the enclosure, and there you have it. You have your lighting. It's all set. Very inexpensive. And the fact is that you're only going to use this enclosure for a little while, and then once your dragon gets up to a larger size, you can actually still utilize this lighting. You also have the option of going with a Mercury vapor bulb, okay? A lot of discussion out there on what's better. And the fact of the matter is, and this is a UVB meter. This is not something we recommend that everybody goes out and get, but we utilize these here in the shop because, as you can see, we have a lot of bulbs and we need to keep up on the UVBs, and when they start to degrade and need to be replaced. So this little device comes in very handy. We're going to go into a little bit about this device a little bit later, but this is your UVB meter. So with the Mercury Vapor, when you compare the Mercury Vapor and the Reptisun 10.0, we still get good UVB out of both bulbs. The advantage of going with a Mercury Vapor bulb, this is 100 watt, this is 160 watt. Both of these just happen to be from Zoomed. As you know, there's other manufacturers of these products. This just so happens to be the boxes that we have right now to show you. This, one thing you're always going to want to do, you cannot take a Mercury Vapor bulb and just put it into a shallow fixture. You're going to want to go with a deep dome with a ceramic base. Okay, so this is a deep dome fixture. We love these stands, and one of the things, especially for you families out there, if you're buying a dragon for your child, one of the things you don't want to have happen is, and this is one of the reasons why I really love this setup, if you have children, you don't want the bulbs being moved. The more you move bulbs, the faster they're going to burn out on you. Whereas with this stand, you're able to remove the top and get to the dragon to bring your dragon out for playtime without actually having to move the bulb. So a deep dome fixture on a stand, and you're able to, with this, adjust the height, okay? Again, if you have the UVB meter, and this kind of rolls right into what else we want to talk about, which is temperature. It doesn't get any more important in husbandry for bearded dragons than temperature and lighting, okay? And that's why we wanted to spend a little bit more time on these two topics with you guys. This is an infrared temp gun. And you're gonna, if you don't use one of these, again, you don't, depending on the number of dragons, there's different things out there that you can use. You could utilize, I think Zoomed sells one that's got a long probe on it. You can put the probe right underneath the light and actually take the temperature. But don't use any of the adhesive thermometers. All that's garbage. So stay away from the garbage. Go with a better thermometer. Again, because you know that this is very, very important in the overall health of your bearded dragon. So we use the temp guns. We use the UVB meters. We got some options here for you. Lesser expensive way of doing it. Again, both options are going to allow you to roll right into adulthood with your Dragon. One of the things we want to talk about is what temperatures are you looking to achieve in the enclosure. So under the hot side, the basking platform side with the clamp lamp or the Mercury vapor bulb, you want to shoot for about 110 degrees. All right, you're going to have a plus or minus 5 to 10 degrees one way or the other, but shoot for the 110 degrees Fahrenheit. We find that to be the best. Obviously, your ultimate goal is to form a temperature gradient from hot to your cool side. And again, it's important whether you use a temp gun or whether you use a probe, non-adhesive thermometers, they're not going to work for you. You want to have that gradient down to 80 degrees on the cool side. Okay, and I get the question quite often, what about at night? At night, if your house temps are going down below 70, I would recommend getting some type of a ceramic heater or some type of a supplemental heat in the evening. But if your house is staying, 68 to 70 or above, you don't need to worry about that. You won't have to get, too concerned about upper respiratory infections, which, if those temperatures drop below that, it is going to become a concern. So keep the temperatures at night up above 68, 70.
Another hot topic about enclosures is having a water bowl or not having a water bowl in their cage. You can utilize a water bowl. There are negatives to having a water bowl in your cage, such as higher humidity points inside your cage and actually your dragon defecating inside that water bowl when you're not home, which is scary to some. You don't actually have to have a water bowl in the cage. Here we actually utilize 2 different types of methods to actually getting their hydration in. Well, besides your standard moisture you find in your crickets and dubia and stuff like that, and on top of the veggies that they're consuming, we also will mist, or we actually give soaks. Either at home you can do it in your bathtub or sink. Here we normally do it in the sink or a Sterilite bin while we're actually cleaning the cage, so they do get their soaks in. Depending on how old the dragon is will depend on how often you will soak them. We would recommend soaking juvenile dragons once a day. Once they reach to adulthood, you can gradually move over to about once a week at the absolute minimum.
One of the other things that we wanted to talk about as far as the juvenile enclosure goes is acclimation. When you purchase a bearded dragon, it's going from point A to point B, wherever you are. What we want to make sure of is that the dragon settles in quickly. And this is not an ideal setup because ideally you're going to want to close off 3 sides. Now some of the cages out there that are on the market, some of the melamine cages and some of the plastic cages that we're going to go into a little bit more in detail here in a minute, obviously are already enclosed on 3 sides. This is not, so if you're going to start out like this, maybe take any item, whether it's black poster board, newspaper, whatever you want to use, but close off 3 sides of the enclosure. Your dragon's going to appreciate it.
And here you guys can actually see we have an adult enclosure here. The dimensions on this are going to be the same as a 40-gallon breeder, so 36 long by 18 inches deep. They come in different height options. This is actually a low profile cage. They come in a high variety as well, but we just have this one set up right now and we just wanted to show you this one. So what we have here is actually, this is our display tank for our Rankin dragons. You can see a couple of caves on the cold side, and you have the branches on the hot side for their basking and climbing around. This is, again, we talked about backgrounds. These cages actually come with the background included, which is very nice to have. You can see here, I know we talked about the juvenile dragons, your non-particle based substrates. You can see here we actually do have sand in this cage. Sand will be only recommended for your adult dragons. You don't want to risk any impaction issues with your juveniles, which they're actually prone to doing because of their very aggressive feeding. And like I said before, we do have our Rankin parent here, but this would also be good for a full-grown bearded dragon.
Okay guys, now we're going to talk a little bit about the lighting and the temperature on an adult setup. And as we talked about before, we got a temp gun here, we've got our basking bulb here, and this is going to be our Reptisun 10.0. So we're getting our UV in this particular setup, we're getting our UVB from the strip, and we're getting our basking bulb up here. Don't forget, you can go with a Mercury vapor bulb in the deep dome. If you do that on an enclosure of this size, I still recommend having some type of fluorescent lighting so that the rest of the enclosure is lit up. It's important for your dragon's well-being to have a well-lit enclosure, okay? So no matter which way you go, make sure the entire enclosure is lit up. We're going to test our temperatures We're good, right where we want to be, around 110 degrees. I'm also going to show you, and again, we talked about the UVB meter. I'm going to test my UVB around the basking site, and I'm going to turn it around so I can see it. And we're right around 20 microwatts per centimeter squared. That's the unit that they use for the measurement. So it's microwatts per centimeter squared. A minimum that you want to make sure you're getting is 13. Okay, so for dragons to be able to synthesize D3, which is going to be used to metabolize the calcium, you want to make sure you're getting a minimum of 13 microwatts per square centimeter. It's very important. All right, guys, so we've shown you a display type setup with the lights externally mounted. So now what I'd like to show you is a cage like this setup. It's another style. This is a sliding glass door front cage where you have your lights, both your UVB and your incandescent, mounted on the inside of the cage. This is a melamine enclosure. You got your vent in the back. And the nice thing about this, again, is that you're not having to move the lights to get access to your Dragon. Just another style that's a very popular cage setup.
Alright guys, and here is another example of some of our adult cages. These are actually the Melamine cages. They actually have two locks in the front and you actually can pull them down. These actually have a screen top in them. The lights aren't actually enclosed in these. This is a good cage to actually be using, like we talked about, your Mercury vapor bulbs. You can have the deep dome on here, and you can have your fluorescent tube right here for the appetite simulation to light up your cage. These cages are actually designed like this so you can have the deep dome in here. That's why they're stacked like this.
All right, guys, we've shown you a lot of different options for housing your bearded dragons, from a juvenile up to an adult. We appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you like us on Facebook, and also make sure you subscribe to Pagona Vision. Our next episode is going to be coming up soon on nutrition for your bearded dragons.